We're not taking a wrecking ball to Fairview.
The votes to close Fairview Elementary hit parents hard, but today the DPS superintendent reveals this may not be the end of the school's chapter.
A former daycare worker pleaded guilty to abusing a child in her care, but with the case now over, the little girl's parents say those effects are long-lasting. It's been less than 24 hours since DPS decided to close 3 schools in Denver. Now the district says they're going to reconsider possibly opening one of them.
That school is the one that we heard the most about, Fairview Elementary. 9 News reporter Angeline McCall spoke with Superintendent Dr. Alex Marrero about why they don't want to take a wrecking ball to it just yet.
Yeah, that's right. The neighborhood of Sun Valley has lost a lot. They've lost their affordable housing and many of the longstanding residents left, and now they are losing their school. This year, Denver Housing Authority, or DHA, is reopening affordable housing in Sun Valley, a neighborhood near Mile High Stadium that is also home to Fairview Elementary. DHA projects up to 400 kids returning to the neighborhood, but those projections are different than the district's. The fact the school was on the closure list upset the community after so much loss, saying this is just another obstacle to overcome. Today, while talking with Superintendent Dr. Alex Marrero, he says if DHA housing projections are correct, they would reevaluate if Fairview should reopen.
I want to make it very clear to the Fairview and the Sun Valley community. If the numbers are there and the need and the desire, more importantly, is there, of course, we'll re-engage. Unfortunately, it will not be for next year because the decision is made, but it can happen as early as the upcoming year and beyond.
The building itself will stay there, and Dr. Marrero says it will have some kids in it in some capacity in the building next year, not for class, but they are interested in seeing if it could house programs, for instance. Dr. Marrero says teachers at all of these schools are exhausted. DPS says it would take another 185 students at Fairview for the school to receive additional funding, and adding additional students beyond that threshold would keep them at the same funding level with even more strained resources on those teachers.
Well, there are a lot of people who will be looking to see what happens here, and many people in that community certainly holding out hope that there may be a turnaround.
Yeah, we heard a lot from the Sun Valley community in the past few weeks saying that they really wanted to fight to keep their school open, and maybe this is not quite what they wanted, but I think it does give some level of hope to know that, hey, you know what, this might not be the end, but even so, I don't think it's necessarily hope in of itself, right? It's just a possibility.
Yeah, a sliver. They'll take it. All right. Thank you, Angeline.
Of course, another big issue for DPS is safety, that following the deadly shooting outside of East High School last month. Well, tomorrow at 11, the Denver School Board's Vice President and Treasurer will be hosting a community meeting at Manual High School to discuss gun violence prevention, emergency preparedness, and mental health support. The Denver Police Chief, Ron Thomas, as well as the DPS Chief of Safety, will be on hand.
A young child is still suffering from the trauma she endured while at an unlicensed daycare in Castle Rock last year. Her parents say she has PTSD and sees a counselor regularly to help her cope after doctors say she was most likely choked. Kaylin Grimm pleaded guilty to child abuse this morning, negligently causing injury to the young girl. The family of the girl says Grimm's punishment isn't enough. In January of 2022, the Prusak family says they noticed handprint across their 3-year-old daughter's face. They also noticed a thumbprint on her neck after picking her up from daycare. If the case had gone to trial and Grimm was found guilty, her maximum sentence would have been 6 months behind bars. Instead, Grimm took a plea deal and will now have to serve 36 hours of community service.
She complies with everything for the next 2 years. The sentence is actually the whole case will be dismissed, and it won't be on her record anymore. And then after 2 years, she could go back to providing care to children, and no one would know what happened. That part doesn't feel just.
The Prusaks say there's not much oversight for unlicensed child care providers. There is one check that you can go through online at coloradoshines.com to see cease and desist letters for unlicensed providers.
A man who police thought had been accidentally run over by his semi-truck had instead actually been shot and murdered. The Weld County Sheriff's Office says 49-year-old Nathan Combs of Burns, Wyoming, died under a semi back in May of 2017. He was on the side of the road near Hereford, Colorado, but it was later discovered that he'd been shot. The investigation led them to Mark Switzer of Laramie County, and after testing firearms and ammunition from Switzer's home, deputies arrested him for the murder. We've now confirmed that an Amtrak train hit and killed a person. An investigation is now underway. It happened just before 6 last night near West 80th and Sims in Arvada. Arvada Fire says the person died at the scene. The Jefferson County Sheriff's Office is now investigating the incident.
The northbound lanes of Highway 285 in the foothills are still closed tonight. This semi-truck crashed around noon near Parmalee Gulch Road, and you can see most of that truck rolled over into Turkey Creek. Firefighters say 2 people were hurt. We don't know how they're doing or when the road will reopen.
A fire destroyed a barn in Hygiene last night. It happened near Highway 66. It took crews several hours to get it under control. No one was hurt. There were no animals inside. Investigators now trying to figure out how that fire started.
6 earthquakes in 24 hours. The city of Trinidad in southern Colorado is the most seismically active area in the state. Scientists say the problem is part geology and part human. Here's Corey Reppenhagen.
A swarm of 6 earthquakes have been detected just west of Trinidad since Thursday night. 2 were magnitude 4.3, including one that hit at about 1:30 Friday afternoon. Residents in the area reported the shaking.
You'd feel probably a quick jolt. There might be some shaking of things in your house. Your chandelier or lights might swing a little bit.
Seismologist William Barnhart says the National Earthquake Information Center in Golden received about 100 individual reports of shaking. However, no damage or injuries were reported. Earthquakes are rare in most of Colorado, but he says that part of Los Animas County is the most seismically active region in the state. There have been 66 earthquakes stronger than magnitude 3.5 since 1990. And he says the reason is not just geology.
In this region, there is what we've identified in the past of what's called induced seismicity, so effectively human-caused earthquakes.
Barnhart says wastewater injection sites can cause earthquakes. That's when the liquid waste from oil and gas operations gets injected back into the ground.
When you inject a fluid into the ground, that creates pressure that then kind of opens that fault. So it can sort of force the fault apart, which makes it easier for that fault to slip.
But Barnhart says there are records of earthquakes in that region even before oil and gas operations moved in. And it's not possible to immediately attribute these new quakes to wastewater injection.
But certainly the higher rates of seismicity since the mid-2000s in that area is most likely a result of oil and gas activity.
Meteorologist Corey Reppenhagen, 9 News.
Barnhart also says the shaking may not be over yet. It's possible the aftershocks could happen for a couple of days after that main quake. The Boulder County Sheriff's Department has a new canine. The 9-week-old bloodhound has a special connection to the department.
Yeah, the new dog, Bolt, is going to replace Scout, who recently retired. Family members of former Boulder Police Sergeant Larry Steingraber donated the dog. Steingraber died in 1993. His cousin, Angie Juleseth Crosby, works with search and rescue bloodhounds, and her dogs just had puppies. She decided to donate one of the pups in her cousin's name.
It feels incredible to me to get to see Bolt walk in Larry's shoes. And my cousin Tammy is Larry's daughter, and we both feel like Larry's spirit is passed on to Bolt here.
And Bolt will be living with Deputy Josh Scrudder, the new handler, and spend the next year or so in training. And the first thing to learn is his new name. Bolt is going to become Watson. Watson, of course, from Sherlock Holmes.
Lawmakers usually get to work early, but Colorado representatives had to sleep a little later than normal today after an all-night legislative session tackling some controversial bills.
There's federal data that says Coloradans are millions of dollars in medical debt. A bill now making its way through the state legislature has been created to help.